Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be breaking down The Shining. It's one of the most rewatchable and talked about films still to this day. I'm only going to focus on the film and not the book, because the book was merely used as a template for Kubrick's genius mind. I'm going to start by pointing out some things you may not have noticed, and then at the end of the video I'll explain what it all means. So let's begin with the interview. Like any other Kubrick film, the framing and the contents within are always the key to finding out what Kubrick is saying. Let's start with what Jack is wearing at the interview. He's wearing a green patterned tie that resembles a lot like the maze. He also has a blue and white shirt on, representing the ice and snow that he will be covered in by the end of the film. And finally, look at the framing of Jack, both at the interview and frozen in the maze. The two shots are identical, a mirror image, with only his upper body, shoulders, and face in frame. Also, at certain points during the interview, he sits frozen in his chair while listening to Mr. Allman speak. Now I'd like to draw your attention to some of the things Allman says while talking to Jack. He mentions that the people in Denver speak very highly of Jack. I've always wondered who exactly spoke highly of him, since it's made clear that he just teaches part-time to make ends meet, and it's not made clear if he's had any success through writing. Also, later on, when Wendy wants to leave the hotel because of Danny's injuries, he freaks out and says, what, go back to shoveling driveways or working at a car wash? So it's clear he's just an average Joe trying to make ends meet. I find it hard to believe that he would have been suggested to take care of such a high-end establishment unsupervised. Allman also informs Jack about the murders at the Overlook Hotel in 1970. And again, I'm focusing on the movie only because I know the book goes into more detail about the long, dark history of the Overlook Hotel, but in the movie, the only incident mentioned by Allman is the Charles Grady incident, which was 10 years before Jack got the job. So to conclude the interview segment, my question is, who was the caretaker the past 10 years before Jack, and who took care of the place before Charles? And if there was only one incident, then it's hard to believe the hotel is haunted, especially since Allman and his staff don't seem frightened by the place the other 7 months of the year. I'll answer this question at the end of the video. Now let's talk about the infamous carpet switching scene. To explain why the carpet switches, I'm going to have to explain some other scenes first. The importance of mirrors is made evident throughout the film, and in Jack's case, the mirrors and Jack go hand in hand. When Wendy brings Jack his breakfast, there's a mirror present focusing in on Jack. When Danny goes to get his fire engine and he sees his dad sitting on the bed, there's a mirror present focusing in on Jack. When Jack goes to the bar, there's mirrors all around focusing in on Jack. When Jack is talking to Delbert Grady, there's mirrors in the bathroom focusing in on Jack. When Jack is locked in the storeroom, the reflective surface acts as a mirror facing Jack. Another thing I need to point out are the shining, bright lights that surround Jack in every mirror scene. Jack is shining at these moments. Another way to put it is that Jack is in a trance-like state. This is made clear the first time Jack's at the bar and Wendy comes in crying and screaming, but Jack only realizes she's there when she touches his shoulder, and you can see very briefly the way Jack's head moves. It suggests he's coming out of his trance. There's one more scene I need to break down before explaining the carpet switching scene. Like I mentioned, mirrors and Jack go hand in hand, and so does the mirroring of actual shots Kubrick chose for certain scenes. Let's concentrate on the scene where Jack overlooks the maze model. Pay attention to the shot Kubrick uses here. Now let's look at the carpet scene. It's the same exact shot, only this time we're panning out overlooking Danny. There's so many different ways he could have filmed this scene, and he chose the same exact style of shot that was used in association to Jack earlier. Now the reason Kubrick decided to reverse the carpet is for a mirror effect. After our established shot overlooking Danny, there's two basic shots, one directly behind Danny and one shot facing him as he stands up. Now this shot selection is mirroring itself. Nobody even would realize this technique if the carpet didn't reverse itself, because in reality, a mirror image would have shown the carpet pattern to be the same to the person sitting on the carpet looking into the mirror. But because the importance of mirrors on opposite sides throughout the film, Kubrick tried to convey a mirror image without using a mirror. That being said, what's the first thing we see when Danny goes towards room 237? We see a mirror and a light. And if you want to know who was in the room, well, the tennis ball that Jack had earlier rolls up to Danny, the overlooking shots that I mentioned associated with Jack, and the mirrors that go hand in hand with Jack are the clues that confirm Jack is the one in room 237. Jack is the one who abused Danny not only physically but sexually. Now let's break down some scenes that confirm this. First, the bear that Danny is lying down on while speaking with the doctor. Bears are being associated to Danny with cryptic film techniques. But also, let's look at the transition shot from Jack at the interview to Danny brushing his teeth. Danny is superimposed over Jack's left eye. Now look at Danny lying on the bear pillow again. He's lying down over the left eye. Now look at the shape of the bear's eye. And look at this scene where Jack is typing. The elevator is behind him. You can see the floor markers are the same shape as the bear's eyes. Now Jack isn't centered, which is strange since Kubrick is a master of composition, but the way he filmed it, he had Jack covering the left eye of the elevator, so to speak. Now let's look at the scene where Wendy sees two people, one in a bear suit, leaned over on a bed. You can only see half the body. Now let's go back to Danny brushing his teeth. Another identical mirror-like shot. Let's also look at the scene where Jack is having a nightmare and Wendy comes running to see what's wrong. Look at the floor she passes, a bear rug. And in the same scene, Danny walks in where Wendy sees he's hurt. Let's jump ahead to the scene where Wendy confronts Jack with a bat. She walks the same path, but this time the bear rug is missing. But when Jack shows up, they start talking about Danny. The bear rug appears again. And finally, the last clue that confirms the abuse is when Jack investigates room 237 because Danny said there was a woman who attacked him. I believe Danny made that up to help rationalize what just happened to him, which was clearly a traumatic experience. While Jack looks in the bathroom, the mirror's present is brightly lit. Jack makes out with a young woman, only to see in the mirror it's a rotting old corpse. We get a quick glimpse of Danny shaking and drooling, while Jack backs off in fear. Also take note of Jack drooling when Wendy wakes him up from his nightmare. And take note of how the woman in the bathroom opens the shower curtain with her right hand very slowly. And let's compare it to the scene where Jack calls Danny over in the bedroom. It's the same movement. Now what's really happening with Jack in room 237 is a moment of reflection. Danny said he was abused by a woman, but the abuser represents Jack. Jack is able to relive the moment through Danny's eyes and is horrified. He begins to walk backwards, mirroring Danny's movements at the end of the film. Every significant mirror scene with Jack is a reflection on his own life. The bar scene, he's reflecting on the struggles of alcoholism. The Delbert Grady scene, he's reflecting on how easier his life would be if he wasn't tied down to his family. The naked woman scene, he's reflecting on the struggles of being faithful and his abuse. And by the end, when he's locked in the storeroom, the reflecting process is over with. He's made his choice. And that's why it's a reflecting surface where you can't quite make out his face, not like you would be able to in a mirror. So now, what does it all mean? The biggest clue is the imaginary maze, and it's the only one you need. Look at this shot of the Overlook Hotel. Anything missing? That's right, the maze isn't there. The maze is just as iconic as the hotel itself, and although in reality they had to build part of the maze and the front part of the hotel in another location, but with movie magic you have to make it feel like it's all in one place. Now why would a master filmmaker like Kubrick make such a blunder in showing the entire front with clearly no maze built? And why not position the camera closer to the hotel so we, the audience, would assume the maze is directly behind the camera? Trust me, it's not a movie mistake. What's really going on for us, the viewer, when we watch The Shining is simply we're watching the movie version of Jack Torrance's book in progress. And just like in real life, a book is always more detailed than a 2-hour film, so Kubrick added in all the details cryptically. Now in Jack Torrance's new book, he's masking all his deepest fears within a supernatural horror novel. He's exercising his demons through writing. He's taking bits and pieces of information and applying it to his book. Let's look at the miniature maze scene again. Jack incorporates everything into his book. The tennis ball. Also notice him glance over at the bat before staring at the maze. Seeing his wife and son walking through the miniature maze, his mind is bursting with ideas. Jack does do all the horrific things shown, but only in his book. And to answer my question from the beginning, who took care of the hotel besides Jack and Charles Grady? It's irrelevant. People came and went without any ghostly encounters. There was only the Grady incident, in which Jack chose to incorporate into his story, changing the name from Charles to Delbert. So I'll wrap it up by saying, after watching Jack Torrance's movie version of his book, I can only imagine how great of a read Jack's book would be if it actually existed. seeing that books are almost always better than the film. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.
You gonna get it, bitch! Damn enchiladas!